The third annual Christmas card from the Millers sat on Sarah's entryway console. As unavoidable as the ache it always carried, she tore the gold seal, her fingers steady, but her stomach tightening. The card slid out, and before she even looked at the photo, she knew to count 5 children. The same 5 children as the last 2 years. Her twin boys were absent again.
They erased my sons. Again.
On the back, just the year in her mother's looping script. No message, no excuse. The earlier cards were in the sideboard drawer, each a monument to the family's chosen blindness.
I shouldn't be surprised, but I am.
The morning light caught the card's gloss, and something in Sarah's posture changed. Hurt became resolve.
Not this year.
Sarah pressed Robert's contact before the card could slide completely off her fingers.
Hello? I was expecting your brother's call. What's wrong?
The Christmas card arrived. James and Benjamin aren't in the photo. Again.
Ah, the layout only fit 5. It's a design choice, not a statement. Sophia's girls live closer. It's simpler.
He said it, the way someone recites a practiced apology.
3 years, and he still thinks I'll believe this. Simpler, right? Because twin boys who don't exist in your family portrait are just inconvenient.
Don't twist this. It's a card. You are reading too much into it.
Then next year, the layout can fit 7, or I'll find another way to be seen.
She ended the call without waiting for a reply. The card's glossy surface caught the morning light. Her own reflection shattered across it. She walked to the sideboard and pulled the brass handle. The drawer slid open with a soft groan. The past 2 years' cards were still in their cream envelopes, the red seals unbroken since she'd filed them away. She carried them to the dining table and lined them up beside this year's card. 3 rectangles of polished denial. She opened each one, the same glossy family portrait staring back.
Every year, the same arrangement. Parents front and center, Sophia's girls stage left, Alexander's boy stage right, and 2 empty spaces where my sons should have stood.
Her fingers hovered over the glossy void, and something colder than disappointment settled in her chest. The evidence was irrefutable. 3 years, 3 cards, not a single frame where her twins existed.
This isn't oversight. This is a statement.
She stacked the cards into a tight pile, her decision already forming behind her eyes. Sarah carried the stack of cards to the living room shelf where her grandfather's photo stood in a simple wooden frame.
Eric, you always said to let the truth speak louder than manners.
He had been the family's anchor, and when he died 10 years ago, he left more than memories, a trust that named her its guardian. The thought sent her to the closet, where a fireproof safe held the original trust documents, barely opened except for quarterly reviews. She dialed the combination with practiced fingers, and the safe door swung open to reveal the thick burgundy binder. The binder's weight felt different now, heavier, as if the years of blind signing had settled into its pages. At her desk, she set it down beside the stack of Christmas cards, next to a small framed photo of Eric and herself as a girl.
What would you have done, grandfather? What did you put in here that I never bothered to read?
For 3 years, she had approved quarterly disbursements for all 7 grandchildren. Without reading past the summary page, she opened the cover, and the pages parted to a section she had never truly studied. Her finger traced the table of contents until it stopped at a heading she had skimmed for years without absorbing. Article 4. Definition of grandchild. Below it, a clause marked with an asterisk for purposes of trust disbursement. A grandchild counts only if acknowledged by the family in public correspondence, at least once per calendar year.
Public correspondence. He meant the Christmas card.
She read it again, her lips moving silently, because the words felt borrowed from a future he had seen coming.
He built a weapon against favoritism and put it in my hands.
She turned to the original trust summary she had signed each quarter, a list of 7 names, never questioned.
I signed off on money for children he considered invisible.
The winter sun had moved across the desk by the time she leaned back. The binder opened to that single paragraph. Nothing had changed in the room, but everything in her had shifted. She opened her laptop and typed with the precision of someone who had already decided. Trust case law. Loaded on the screen. confirming what she suspected. The language was airtight. Then she reached for the 3 cards in her phone, photographing the front of each. Then the back where the year was written. She moved with the quiet efficiency of a woman, assembling evidence that could not be argued away. The trust page went under the scanner, the clause ringed in yellow highlighter.
This isn't revenge. It's enforcement.
She printed 2 copies, one for the bank, one for the file she was building. She slid the photographs into a manila folder, then added the highlighted clause, the stack of cards resting beside it. What had started as a wound was now a case file. She closed the folder and wrote across the tab, Amendment 2023. She pulled the thick file of quarterly disbursement records from the binder's back pocket and spread them across the desk. Her pen circled the same quarterly amount on 3 different statements, a number she had approved without thought. The per-child rate had never changed, and neither had the family's definition of who mattered.
3 years of signing, and I never once asked who was actually being counted.
She pulled a calculator from the drawer and tapped in the total disbursed to the 5 acknowledged grandchildren. The display blinked the same total that had been flowing into their accounts, while her sons stayed invisible.
85,000. That's what they collected while my sons got nothing.
She turned to the clause again, reading the words that made those payments voidable. Her fingers returned to the calculator and added what the clawback would total. The number on the screen was $147,000. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the desk lamp. She opened a new document and began to type, the words precise and without emotion. She cited Article 4, attached the photographs, and requested the recovery of $147,000. As per the trust's plain language, the printer hummed and delivered the letter on cream paper. She signed her name with a pen that felt heavier than it should. She folded the letter into a thick envelope, then sealed it with a finality that echoed in the quiet room.
Either the bank upholds this, or they don't. But I am no longer the one who let it slide.
She addressed the envelope to Sterling Trust, her handwriting steady. The manila folder with the evidence was placed alongside the envelope, the case now complete.
Once I leave this at the bank, there's no taking it back.
She stood, envelope in hand, and the house seemed quieter than it had been all morning. The next morning, Sarah pulled on her wool coat and drove across town to Sterling Trust. The building was old brick and brass, the kind of institution that outlasted arguments. Inside, the marble floor echoed her steps. She walked to the teller window without hesitation.
I need a receipt for this filing, please.
The teller stamped the receipt and slid it back without a question. Sarah folded the paper into her coat pocket. The bank's stamp made the moment official. She walked out into the cold air, and only then did her hands tremble. She drove home in a careful silence. The envelope was gone, the receipt in her pocket. Back home, she stood by the front window, coat still on, phone in hand.
I have given them something to be angry about. Now I'll wait for the anger.
The phone buzzed on the coffee table before the damp wool of her coat had fully warmed. Robert's name blazed on the screen like an accusation.
Hello, Dad.
What have you done? The bank called. $147,000, Sarah. Have you lost your mind? They said you filed an amendment clawing back payments.
I enforced a clause in grandfather's trust. The one you never read.
A clause? This is about a Christmas card. You are destroying this family over a photo layout. For 3 years, you've let this fester.
Next year's card will be easier. 5 kids fits the layout perfectly. Isn't that what you told me?
You twisted my words. You are no daughter of mine.
That's fine. I am a trustee first. Goodbye, Dad.
She ended the call and set the phone face down on the cushion. The house fell silent, but somewhere she knew the real noise was just beginning. She picked the phone back up and scrolled to Claire's name. The cold from the window pane pressed against her shoulder.
Sarah, you sound like you've been through something.
My father just called. The bank notified him about the trust amendment before they even sent me confirmation.
The amendment you told me about? The one with your grandfather's clause? You actually filed it?
I filed it this morning. The trust says a grandchild only counts if the family publicly acknowledges them at least once a year. The Christmas card is that public correspondence.
So, because your twins were left out 3 years running, they're technically not beneficiaries. That's ironclad.
Exactly. The other 5 kids have been receiving money that, under the clause, they may not be entitled to. The clawback total is $147,000. It's not revenge, it's math.
You did the right thing, Sarah. Eric knew what he was doing, but I am worried about how the family will come at you next.
Sarah looked back toward the living room, where the 3 Christmas cards still lay stacked on the dining table. Before she could set the phone down, Sophia's face filled the screen, tear-streaked and trembling.
You took their college money. 3 years of future, Sarah. How could you do this?
I enforced the trust as written, Sophia. Grandfather left that clause for a reason.
He left it to be fair, not to be weaponized. You were always cold, but this is cruelty.
Cold. No, I am just no longer invisible.
The video call disconnected, and a voicemail notification from Linda appeared on the home screen. Sarah played it. "Sarah, please. We can fix this. Don't do this to us." She set the phone down and walked to the front door, where an envelope from Sterling Trust had arrived. She tore it open. The letter was brief. The amended schedule had been processed. $147,000 had been returned to the corpus.
The number sat in her mind like a final lock clicking shut.
The phone rang a second time that evening, and this time Robert's voice had lost its sharp edge.
Sarah, listen. I'll talk to your mother. Next year's card will have all 7. Just fix this, and we'll make it right.
He thinks this is about the picture, Dad. The card isn't the problem. The trust was violated. The bank has already processed it.
Then file a correction. You are the trustee. You can reverse it. Don't be so rigid.
Rigid. He still won't see that this was his doing. Grandfather knew. He planned for this. I am just following his instructions.
There was a long silence on the line, the kind that lands heavier than shouting.
You are worse than we ever were. At least we didn't humiliate you in public.
Sarah didn't answer. She ended the call and set the phone on the table, the bank letter still in her other hand. That night, the house settled into a rare stillness, and Sarah stood by the front window, a cold mug of coffee forgotten in her hands. On the shelf beside her, a framed photo of James and Benjamin grinned from last summer, oblivious to the day's battle.
They have to know they matter. I did this so they never feel invisible.
She walked to her desk, where the trust statement lay open. The clawback was already reflected in the updated balance. Beside the statement, her grandfather's photo caught the lamplight, his expression as steady as she remembered.
He saw this coming. He trusted me to enforce it, and I did.
A pang of guilt flickered for Sophia's daughters. But when she pictured the Christmas cards stacked on the dining table, the guilt hardened into certainty.
I didn't start this. I ended it.
She reached over and touched the edge of her grandfather's frame, a silent acknowledgement. Then she turned off the desk lamp and let the quiet surround her, ready for whatever came next. A week of silence broke when Linda's name lit the screen, the call Sarah had refused to predict.
Hello, Mom.
Sarah, I am not calling to fight. We've all had time to think. What you did hurt, but I understand why.
Her mother's voice was thinner, stripped of the polish that usually coated every word.
The family is struggling, but maybe we deserved this. Your grandfather always said favoritism would backfire. Next year, the card will be different. I'll make sure of it.
I want to believe that, but belief isn't trust yet.
Linda didn't argue. There was a long exhale, then a quiet "I know." The call ended with no warmth, but no barbed words either. A ceasefire stitched from exhaustion. Sarah set the phone down and returned to her coffee. The house quieter than the one she'd grown up in. Spring melted the snow, then summer draped the yard in heat. By autumn, the house had relearned its rhythms.
Mom, when is Christmas coming?
Soon. But this year, we're not waiting for anything. We're just being us.
She checked the trust balance online more out of habit than worry now. The clawback had settled, and the statements arrived without turmoil. By early December, her thoughts returned to the card. Not with anger, but with quiet curiosity. Then the mail slot clattered, and a cream envelope slid across the floor. She picked it up, and the weight of it stilled her hand.
This is the moment.
She carried it to the living room, where the twins were playing, and sat down beside them, the unopened card in her lap. She looked at the envelope one more time, feeling the quiet certainty that whatever was inside, the fight had already been won. She slid her finger under the flap and pulled out the card. The same glossy weight of every year before. The photo was turned away, and for a second, she held it face down, breathing into the pause.
Just turn it over.
She flipped the card, and 7 small faces looked back at her. James and Benjamin stood in the center row, between their cousins, their blonde heads catching the studio light.
They did it. They actually did it.
Her twins had the same gap-toothed grins as the children, on either side, no longer invisible. In the background, Robert and Linda posed with tense formality, as if smiling required permission. She looked at the card until her eyes blurred, and then she blinked, and the image cleared again. A small, weary smile settled on her lips. Not triumph, something closer to relief. She stood from the rug, the card held in both hands, and walked to the mantel, where Eric's photo waited. Beside the silver frame, she propped the new card upright, its glossy surface catching the tree lights.
This is what acknowledgement looks like.
Then she moved to the kitchen. Laptop already open to the trust portal. The balance had grown since the clawback. $147,000 returned, now earmarked for James and Benjamin's education.
It was never about the money. It was about being counted.
She scrolled to the transaction history. The bold line confirming the amendment had held for a long moment. She just stared at the screen, letting the numbers settle into something like peace.
He planned for this, Granddad. I hope I made you proud.
The cursor blinked, and she closed the laptop, leaving the trust in the quiet care of his foresight. Evening had fallen, and Sarah sat cross-legged on the living room rug, a worn holiday storybook open across her knees. James and Benjamin pressed against her, their damp hair smelling of soap and sleep. The phone buzzed on the end table, the screen lighting with a message from Linda. It read, "We did what you asked." She stared at the words for 3 heartbeats, then set the phone face down without typing a reply. No response was necessary. She had said everything a year ago in a bank lobby.
Mom, you skipped the reindeer page.
Did I? Then we'll find it together.
She turned back the page, and both boys leaned in, their small fingers tracing the illustrated reindeer. The new card stood on the mantel behind them, but Sarah didn't need to look at it anymore. Christmas morning arrived in a spill of pale winter light, the snow outside softening the world. James and Benjamin tumbled from their room in footed pajamas, eyes wide for the tree.
He came. Mom, look how many.
Paper tore, laughter rang, and for an hour the room was nothing but joy. Sarah nestled into the armchair, a forgotten coffee cooling on the end table.
Last year I was invisible. This year they are.
On the mantel, the new card still stood beside Eric's photograph, the fire crackling low. There was no visit from Robert and Linda, no strained phone call, just the quiet of a house that finally felt whole. Sarah watched them, not waiting for anything, not bracing. The cycle had broken, and in its place was this, a Christmas without erasure. In the lull of the afternoon, when the toys were stacked and the twins lost in their own worlds, Sarah rose from the armchair. She walked to the mantel, where a small poinsettia waited in its foil wrapper, and set it beside Eric's frame. The photograph had watched every battle of the past year, and now it watched the peace. Eric had seen favoritism eat through families before, so he built a clause that could only be triggered by someone brave enough to stop pretending. He had chosen the Christmas card, the family's most visible act, as the test, knowing one day it would matter.
You knew before I did.
Beside the photo, the new card still stood, 7 grandchildren smiling. Sarah's quiet smile said everything the trust document had said in legal language. Acknowledgement is not a gift. It is an obligation. She rested her fingertips on the frame's edge one more time, then stepped back. The house was quiet. The fire crackled, and in the reflection of the glass, the new card glinted, All 7 grandchildren finally counted from the hall. The twins' laughter rose and fell, tangled with the crackle of the fire. The photograph of Eric held the room, his eyes carrying a warmth that years had not dimmed. He had known favoritism rarely corrected itself, that someone would need clear proof and clearer language, so he built a clause that was both scalpel and shield, and trusted Sarah to know when to wield it. She had. Not as a daughter seeking revenge, but as a mother ensuring her sons were never erased again. The card's reflection in the glass doubled the 7 smiling faces, a quiet echo of what was finally made visible. Some love plans, decades ahead. It trusts that one day the right pair of hands will take the instrument and act. Sarah's hands had been those hands, and now this mantle, this house, this Christmas held the proof. The fire lowered to embers, and the laughter continued, a sound that had always belonged here, finally allowed to fill the space.